Meteorologist Rebecca here, checking in on the latest with Hurricane Irma. I know a lot of you guys are worried about it. I'm worried about it too, but the good news is it's too soon to tell you that it's going to have a direct impact on us. I do think that Monday potentially we could have a really windy, rainy day, and that's just all going to depend on Irma's track. In fact, come on over and look at Irma's track. I've got it pulled up over here for you. And so this is that 2 p.m. advisory. So at 2 p.m. we just get a position and intensity update. And so it shows some slight intensification. The winds are now sustained at 185 miles per hour with gusts of up to 220 miles per hour. It's moving fast for a storm that's this powerful to the west at 15 miles per hour. And so that puts it over Puerto Rico tomorrow at 8 p.m., scraping by Hispaniola possibly, and then maybe edging off towards Cuba by the time Saturday morning rolls around at 8 a.m. It's supposed to be a Category 4 just over Cuba. This is when the big question marks start, because all of the models do have it turning to the north and potentially affecting the Florida Peninsula. This is Sunday morning at 8 a.m. It'll start to affect South Florida. And so it's still a very powerful Category 4 storm. I'm going to switch over so you can see the two hurricane models that we rely pretty heavily on. It's the Euro right here in yellow, and the GFS is just underneath it in white. And so they're in pretty good agreement up until this point. They're not very far away at all. But once we move past that 5-day cone, this is when we start, why we're so worried. They are expecting it's going to turn to the north and affect the peninsula of Florida. The GFS in white here has it staying a little bit further to the east. The Euro takes a more western track, and that's still a big question mark right now. And based on that difference, our weather would be radically different if it were on the east coast versus the west coast. And so this is Sunday into Monday. This is Monday at 6 p.m. The GFS shows a scarier scenario along the east coast here. The Euro shares an uncomfortable but not as scary scenario of it crossing the state before it gets to us, which would mean tornadoes and tropical storm force winds and rain and trees down and power outages, but we wouldn't have to deal with storm surge like we would if it were on the east coast. And so that's the latest update. We get a new track at 5 p.m. Things should start to get a little bit better for us in terms of knowing what to expect during the day tomorrow, and especially by Thursday. But of course, we have you covered 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We have our team here. We're all working on getting you the latest information from Irma and the best information as well. I know you're encountering a lot of forecasts online that may look legitimate, but no one knows where this is going in for Monday's forecast. With the best forecast we have is that National Hurricane Center forecast that's 5 days out. We can look at models like I just showed you, but they're not definitive. The margin of error on models that far out is pretty massive, and it can mean radical changes in what you can expect. And so we'll continue to update you on that. Do you guys have any questions?
No questions. Everyone just preparing just in case, stocking up.
I understand, because I would think if it's a West Coast storm, you need to be prepared for 3 days without power, but we're not necessarily talking about evacuations. We do have the threat of tornadoes. That would be the worst if it were a West Coast storm sweeping across the state here. Some of you guys may remember Hurricane Charlie. It would be a very similar scenario to Charlie. A lot of people were without power for weeks in Arlington after Charlie. That's worst case scenario with the West Coast storm.
Alrighty, thank you, Rebecca.
Thank you.
And everyone, don't forget, you can always download our Hurricane Tracker app. Just search WJXT in your phone's app store. The Weather Authority will send alerts right to your phone as soon as new information comes out. You can also head to our website, news4jax.com/hurricane. We've put up there our very, very helpful hurricane season guide. Has everything you need to have on hand. It comes in a printable format. Take it to the grocery store, stock up, and watch us on News4Jax at 4 for the latest. We'll see you then.